Unveiling Strong Delusion, Video 37, Hebrew Cognates That Shouldn't Exist, Part 2. This video continues showing Hebrew cognates in other languages that shouldn't exist. I think Hebrew has such cognates because our true history differs markedly from our spoon-fed history. When I use his work, I will credit Allison Emery Drake, SCM, MD, PhD, in his book Discoveries in Hebrew, Gaelic, Gothic, Anglo-Saxon, Basque, and Other Caucasian languages, by noting Discoveries, PDF, and a page number. I mentioned in the last video that I think Hebrew developed as an artificial or pidgin language in the not too distant past. Interestingly, Harry Hubbard recently published a video on YouTube entitled Addendum 3, where he questions the authenticity of the Dead Sea Scrolls and also questions the origins of Hebrew. I want to stress that we don't know the real pronunciation of Biblical Hebrew or the real meaning of many words. Although today an entire country speaks modern Hebrew, no one has any idea if it sounds anything like Biblical Hebrew. In comparing different pronunciation and meaning choices, Emmanuel Tov wrote, quote, reconstructed vocalizations that differ from Masoretic text are referred to as different vocalizations. In other words, different sounds. Ultimately, it is not known exactly how the translators identified the reading of the letters in their volage, which just means text, whether through the use of oral or written sources. Likewise, little is known about the oral reading of the scripture. When a rare or unique word of Masoretic text is represented in the Septuagint by a more common word, it is possible that the translator had difficulty in establishing its meaning. In the italics on rare or unique, Emmanuel Tov had that in his original. That's from the reading tradition of the Masoretic text group compared with that of the Septuagint, an article by Tov that appeared I don't know exactly when. I didn't put the date. Biblical Hebrew has about 2,000 rare or unique words, or hapax legoma, out of about 8,000 words. And a hapax legoma means a word only used once. Now the first cognate, dea, cognate with idea. In Hebrew, dea means knowledge or gnosis. Strong's Hebrew 1844, and also the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament 848. Cognate with idea in English, Spanish, Latin. Quote, for the Lord is a God of knowledge, deot, which comes from Strong Hebrew 1844, 1 Samuel 2:3. The Septuagint translates dea as gnosis and the Vulgate as scientia. Dea derives ultimately from yada, or knowledge, perception, understanding, which is Strong's Hebrew 3045. Da'at, or da'ath, data. In Hebrew, da'at or da'ath means knowledge, perception, skill, discernment, understanding, wisdom, cunning. Strong's Hebrew 1847 and Theological Word Book 848c. It's a cognate with data, also derived from yada, just like dea does. Quote, and I have filled him with the Spirit of God in wisdom and in understanding and in knowledge, ubeda'at. Again from Strong's Hebrew 1847, and in all manner of workmanship, Exodus 31:3. Quote, this feminine noun is from the root yada, to know. The root expresses knowledge gained in various ways by the senses. Da'at is a general term for knowledge, particularly that which is of a personal, experimental nature. Proverbs 24:5. It is also used for technical knowledge, or the ability such as that needed for building the tabernacle and temple, Exodus 31:3, 35:31, and 1 Kings 7:14. And that's from the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, 848c. And you can see da'at means exactly what we use data to mean today. Da'at, or data continued, Genesis 2:17. Quote, but of the tree of knowledge, ha-da'at, and the ha just means the, of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. Quote, and they say, how doth God, El, know, Yada, and is there knowledge, Dea, in the Most High, Be Elyon? From these words, Dea or idea and Da'at or data, we get the Latin Dea or goddess or Deo, male god, and data. The gods, dei, or fallen angels brought knowledge or data to mankind. Quote, and Azazel taught men to make swords and daggers and shields and breastplates, and he showed them the things after these, and the art of making them, bracelets and ornaments, and the art of making up the eyes, and of beautifying the eyelids, men, and the most precious stones, and all kinds of colored dyes, and the world was changed. 1 Enoch 8:1. Third cognate, besem, cognate with balsam. In Hebrew, besem means spice, sweet, smell, perfume, balsam, balsam tree. Strong's Hebrew 13:14. It's cognate with English balsam, which means an aromatic resinous substance such as balm, exuded by various trees and shrubs, and used as a base for certain fragrances and medical and cosmetic preparations. Galach, Calvo. This is the fourth cognate. In Hebrew, galach means to shave or bald. Strong's Hebrew 15:48. Cognate with the Italian and Spanish calvo or calva, meaning bald, and Latin calvus. The Gaul prefix gives us the Roman Galli priests, who castrate themselves for the goddess Sybil or Kibble and run the civil or Sibyl service. Men who castrate themselves before puberty don't have to shave. Quote, for there are some eunuchs which were so born from their mother's womb, and there are some eunuchs which were made eunuchs of men, and there be eunuchs which have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. He that is able to receive it, let him receive it. End of quote. Matthew 19:12. And in history, many people have allowed themselves to go through castration for the kingdom of heaven. Fifth cognate, Hebrew gargar and Basque garagar. In Hebrew, gargar means berry. Strong's Hebrew 16:20. In Basque, garagar means barley, a grain with berries. And that's from the Basque English Dictionary and also Discoveries in Hebrew, page 99. 6. Blood, Hebrew and Gallic. In Hebrew, dam means blood. Strong's Hebrew 18:18. And you see the British interchange that. They say dam, and then they also say bloody. And that's just from the Hebrew dam. In Gallic, dam means, quote, consanguinity, kindred people, blood relations. And that's from the Irish English Dictionary, edited by Edward O'Reilly, and also Discoveries in Hebrew, page 104. And interestingly, dam in Gaelic also means church, a place of blood sacrifices. 7. Dakar, dagger. In Hebrew, dakar means to stab, thrust, through, pierce. Strong's Hebrew 1856. Cognate with the English dagger and with Gallic dagger. Not sure how to pronounce that. Don't speak any Gaelic. Discoveries in Hebrew, PDF 105, and the Irish English Dictionary, page 170. 8. Ha, cognate with the, and hem, cognate with them. Ha in Hebrew means the. In the beginning, God created the heavens, ha shamayim, and the earth, ha eretz. And it just is missing the initial T. And then hem means them in Hebrew. Strong's Hebrew 1992. Almost exactly the same word. Then the eyes of both of them, shene, hem, were opened, and they, hem, knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves lahem, covering. I think the Shinahem, or two of them, English gets the phrase the two of them or the both of them, or vice versa, because more likely than not, English came before Hebrew. Hey, cognate with hey. Strong's Hebrew 1887 translates the Hebrew word hey as behold, lo. One just as easily could translate it as hey, as English speakers often use the word in the sense of hey, look. Then Joseph said unto the people, behold, hen, I have brought you this day in your land for Pharaoh. Lo, hey, here is seed for you, and ye shall sow the land. I forgot to give the verse number. 10. Haras and Haras, or Haras, a word, English, this is an English word that has at least 3 or 4 different pronunciations. And so I use the standard American one of harass. Haras in Hebrew means to tear down, break down, overthrow, beat down, break through, destroy. Strong's Hebrew 2040. Now in modern society, harass has come to mean a less serious sense than to tear down, overthrow, or destroy. More commonly, it has the connotation of workplace harassment, or a child harassing a sibling or parents, or to annoy repeatedly. But harass once meant, quote, to make repeated attacks or raids against an enemy. The exact same word with the exact same meaning. Zamir, summer. In Hebrew, zamir means trimming, pruning. Strong's Hebrew 2159. Cognate with English summer, when farmers trim and prune plants, and with Gallic sumrod, meaning summer. Discoveries in Hebrew, PDF 117, in the Irish English Dictionary, page 438. 12. Hapes, cognate with happy or happiness. In Hebrew, hapes means take delight in, be pleased with, desire. Strong's Hebrew 2656, Theological Wordbook of the Old Testament 712a. Basically the same word as the English happy or happiness. The word book gives hapes with a P, while Strong's gives hafez with an F sound. I think the word book has it right. 12. Haram, cognate with harm. In Hebrew, haram means to destroy utterly or completely, to ban. Strong's Hebrew 2763 and 2764. It's a cognate with harm. Quote, and Israel vowed a vow unto the Lord, and said, if thou wilt indeed deliver this land into my hand, then I will utterly destroy, haram, their cities. And the Lord hearkened to the voice of Israel, and delivered up the Canaanites, and they utterly destroyed, haram, them and their cities. And he called the name of the place Hormah, which actually is, that's the English transliteration, and in the Hebrew it's Harem-ah, or Harm-ah. Numbers 21, 2-3. The book of Joshua uses the word haram for all the cities his troops destroyed. Leviticus 27:28-29 also uses haram in the sense of devote, to refer to a human sacrifice to Yahweh. 13. Taraf, tear off. In Hebrew, taraf means tear, or tear in pieces. Strong's Hebrew 2963. Cognate with English tear off. I got this cognate from a video by LXDR1F7, but did not save the link. Zayat, sweat. In Hebrew, zayah, which also goes by zayat, means sweat. Strong's Hebrew 2188. Cognate with the English sweat. Quote, in the sweat, zayat, of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground. For out of it wast thou taken, from dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. Genesis 3:19. 15. Wine, wine. In Hebrew, yayin means wine. Strong's Hebrew 3196. Scholars generally recognize this yayin, wine, cognate, along with German vin, Greek oinos, and Latin vinum. 16. Yelad, lad. In Hebrew, yeled or yelad means a young man. I left out the Strong's number, but it means a child, young boy, or boy. And you can see these little triangles under the first two letters, the yod and the lamed, mean an E sound follows. But again, that's the Masoretes telling us what to say. So it could just as easily be ye lad, and it's a cognate with lad. Quote, and Lamech said unto his wives, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man, Yelad, to my hurt. Genesis 4:23. 16, Yelal, cognate with yell. In Hebrew, Yelal means howling. Strong's Hebrew 32:14, cognate with yell. The word appears only in Deuteronomy 32:10, the Song of Moses. Quote, he found him, Israel, in a desert land, and in the waste howling, Yelel, wilderness. He led him about, he instructed him, he kept him as the apple of his eye. The translation kept him as the apple of his eye takes poetic license because more literally the Hebrew says, watched him with the pupil of his eye. The book of Enoch describes the fallen angels led by Azazel as the watchers. Strong's Hebrew 58:10 translates Azaz as strengthened, prevail, strong, impudent, hardeneth. So Azazel could mean strong God or impudent God, depending on one's viewpoint. Yafef or Yafa, guapo. In Hebrew, Yafeh or means fair, beautiful, handsome. Strong's Hebrew 33:03, and Yafeh derives from Yafa, Strong's Hebrew 33:02, which means the same thing. So we just basically have two different pronunciations of the same word in Strong's. Cognate with Spanish guapo, meaning handsome. Yada or ara, cognate with arrow. In Hebrew, yada or ara means shoot arrows, archers, cast. Strong's Hebrew 33:84. It's a cognate with arrow. Video 34 on Jesus in the Old Testament showed that Hebrew had a similar word, yada, that also means to shoot arrows. Strong's Hebrew 30:34, from which the name Judas, from Thomas Judas Didymus, the twin of Jesus, derives. 19, Yerak or Yareak, year. And again, we don't know the correct pronunciation of these words. In Hebrew, Yerak or Yareak means moon, month, new moon. Strong's Hebrew 3391 to 3394. Cognate with year in German Jahr. Discoveries in Hebrew, page 164. A month differs from a year, but the importance of the lunar cycle shows itself in many cultures, particularly in Hebrew culture, which has a lunar calendar. 20. Yar or Yare. Awe, Anglo-Saxon R. In Hebrew, Yar means to fear, revered, be afraid. Strong's Hebrew 33:72. It's a cognate with awe and Anglo-Saxon R, meaning honor, respect, reverence. Discoveries in Hebrew 164. Some English speakers can't say R and replace it with W, and so awe in English could actually have the exact same sound as R. This word yar or R, meaning fear, reverence, awe, has a range of connotations from the emotions of fear to the anticipation of evil, reverence and awe, righteous, pious fear, and fear shown in formal religious worship. And that's from the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, 907. Yar, or fear, has a linguistic connection to the moon, or Yar-ak, or Yare-ak, just as in the Egyptian Ra, or sun, in Hebrew, becomes evil. Strong's Hebrew 74:51. So these two lights, artificial lights, established by the Elohim, or Elohim, in Genesis 1, I think played a big role in whatever catastrophe hit the earth in the not-so-distant past. And we see this word Yare in Great Yarmouth, England, and that's in more or less northern England, where William the Conqueror harried the north and slaughtered people. The Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, 907, devotes a little more than an entire double column page to Yarek, more than it does just about any other word. And here we have Great Yarmouth in England, here on the east coast of England, overlooking the Netherlands or Holland. 21, Ishi, he saves me. Doctor in Japanese. In Hebrew, Ishi means he saves me. Strong's Hebrew 3169. Ishi means doctor in Japanese who save people, except of course when they kill them. Iatrogenesis means illness or death caused by doctors or other medical practitioners. In a 2003 study titled Death by Medicine, the authors estimated 783,936 people die from iatrogenesis each year in the USA, and that each year 2.2 million U.S. hospital patients experience adverse reactions to drugs. Actually, I think that very precise figure applied to 2002, I think, or something like that. But it's a large number, no matter if they're off by 100,000 here or 100,000 there, a large number of people get killed by doctors. 21, cod means jar. It's a cognate with Latin cadus and the Greek kados. In Hebrew, cod means a jar or jug. Strong's Hebrew 3537. In Latin, cadus means a jar or jug. In Greek, kados means a jar or drug. And that's Discoveries in Hebrew, page 169. 22, chemo, cognate with Italian come and Spanish como. In Hebrew, chemo means like as, the like of which. Strong's Hebrew 3644. It's a cognate with Italian come and Spanish como, meaning like as how. Quote, the depths have covered them, they sank into the bottom as a stone. Chemo aben in Hebrew, Exodus 15:15. The depths have covered them, they sank into the bottom as a stone. Come pietra in Italian, Exodus 15:5. The depths have covered them, they sank into the bottom as a stone. Como piedra in Spanish. And you can see the slight changes between Italian and Spanish. The E became an O in Spanish, and the T in pietra became a D in Spanish. That happens, the linguistic shift. 23, kaba, acabar, Spanish. In Hebrew, kaba means to quench, put out, be quenched, be extinguished. Strong's Hebrew 3518. It's a cognate with Spanish acabar, meaning to end or to finish. Kaba ends in an ah sound with the R sound elided. But with the R, it becomes kabar, almost the same word as the Spanish acabar. The fire shall ever be burning upon the altar. It shall never go out. Lo tikbe, from Kaba, Strong's Hebrew 3518, Leviticus 6:13. Spanish has a more specific verb for extinguishing a fire, apagar, but you can see the similarity between it and acabar. 24, kebel, cognate with cable. In Hebrew, kebel means fetters, bond. Strong's Hebrew 3525. Cognate with English cable, Spanish cable, and Gaelic gebheel. And sorry, I don't know my Gaelic pronunciation. Discoveries in Hebrew, PDF 169. Quote, to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters, bekebel, of iron. So they mean an iron cable. Psalms 149:8. Blue Letter Bible Strong's 3525 says, quote, from an unused root, meaning to twine or braid together. In other words, twisted, like a cable. The exact same word in English, Spanish, Gaelic, and Hebrew. Kol, all, or holos. In Hebrew, kol, or hol, means all, everything, the whole. Strong's Hebrew 3605. Cognate with English, all, and Gaelic guil, and Greek holos. Discoveries in Hebrew, PDF 171. 26, kamar, cognate with Spanish kemar. In Hebrew, kamar means be kindled, be black, hot, grow warm and tender, be or grow hot, become hot, become emotionally agitated, to yearn. Strong's Hebrew 36:48. Cognate with Spanish quemar, which means to burn, set fire, scald. In Spanish, one can use quemar in an emotional or yearning sense, such as el amor quema los que no saben. Love burns those who do not know. Or el amor quema como el odio. Love burns like hate. Kafar, cover. In Hebrew, kafar means to cover, purge, make an atonement, make reconciliation, cover over with pitch. Cognate with English cover, in Italian coperta. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood, make rooms in the ark, and cover it, vekafarta, inside and outside with pitch. Genesis 6:14. 28. Kar, Gaelic sheep, lamb, ram. In Hebrew, kar means a lamb or a ram, and also pasture. Strong's Hebrew 37:33. Cognate with Gaelic kaor, meaning sheep. Discoveries in Hebrew 177. 28a, kar, is cognate with car or chariot. In Hebrew, the same word we just saw, car, also means an enclosed riding space erected on a camel's saddle, hodah, palanquin, basket saddle. Strong's Hebrew 37:33. Cognate with both English car and chariot. Strong's calls car a masculine noun, but if viewed as a feminine noun, its plural would read karot or kariot, like chariot. Quote, and they shall bring all your brethren for an offering unto the Lord out of all nations upon horses, and in chariots, and in litters, and upon mules, and upon swift beasts, ubakir karot, to my holy mountain Jerusalem, said the Lord, as the children of Israel bring an offering in a clean vessel into the house of the Lord. Isaiah 66:20. And several translations of this particular verse say camels other than swift beasts, but in Hebrew, camel is gamel, and so karot is not the same. So who knows? It's again, this is another one of these words nobody knows. 29, le'om, cognate with French l'homme or les hommes. In Hebrew, le'om means people, nation, folk. Strong's Hebrew 38:16. Cognate with French l'homme or les hommes, or the man or the men. Also cognate with Italian l'uomo or gli uomini. Quote, he that withholdeth corn, the people, le'om, shall curse him, but blessing shall be upon the head of the man that selleth it. Proverbs 11:26. 30. Lahat, light. In Hebrew, lahat means burning flame or an angelic sword. Strong's Hebrew 38:58. Cognate with English light. Discoveries in Hebrew 181. Quote, so he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubim or cherubims, and a flaming lahat sword, which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. Genesis 3:24. A light sword like Star Wars. Truth in fiction. 31. Lifya or livya, leaf. Strong's Hebrew 3880 translates livya to mean wreath. Cognate with English leaf, and that's Discoveries in Hebrew 182. Quote, for they shall be an ornament, livyat, of grace unto thy head, and chains about thy neck. Proverbs 1:9. Quote, she shall give to thine head an ornament, livyat, or of grace, a crown of glory shall she deliver to thee. Proverbs 4:9. This word also can take the form loya, which reminds me of lei in Hawaiian, a garland of flowers. That's from the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, 1089a. 32. Loon, cognate with loon and luna. In Hebrew, loon means to lodge, spend the night. Strong's Hebrew 3885. The King James Version translates it, quote, as lodge, murmur, the night, then those ellipses are in the Blue Letter Bible Strong's. Abide, remain, tarry, lodge in, continue, dwell, endure, grudge, left, lie, variant, end of quote. And it's cognate with the French lune and luna in Spanish and Italian. Quote, and he said, behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go on your ways. And they said, nay, but we will abide in the street all night. Na lune. Genesis 19:2. And in this verse, lune means night, just as lune, luna, and moon mean night. Lag, laugh. The King James Version translates lag as, quote, mock, scorn, laugh, have in derision. Laugh to scorn, stammering, Strong's Hebrew 3932. Cognate with English, laugh. The last letter in lag, gimel, could give the exact English gh ending of laugh. Also, historical linguists tell us English at one time pronounced all the letters of a word, so laugh may once have had the sound lag, or something like that. 34. Mag, magi, magnet. The Hebrew word mag means a soothsayer or magician. Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, 1143. The two words, Rav, or Rab, mag, mean chief soothsayer or chief magician. Strong's Hebrew 7248. Cognate with English, magi, or magician, as in the three magi who visited the little baby Jesus, supposedly on 6th January, called the Epiphany by Roman Catholics and Theophany by the Orthodox. Interestingly, in Spanish, iman means magnet, and in Islam, imam means a leader. Islam has a strong connection to Spain, and many Spanish people have Islamic names. So I think magnetism, electricity, and light play a huge role in our past that we just don't know. It's been hidden from us. 35. Ma, cognate with Italian, ma. The Hebrew interrogative preposition ma means what? What? Strong's Hebrew 4100. Cognate with Italian, ma, which means what? Ma che dite? What are you saying? And he said, what, ma, hast thou done? Asita, the voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. Genesis 4:10. In the phrase, ma asita, or what hast thou done, we get three cognates. Ma, and the Italian ma, asi, from the Hebrew verb asa, or do, Strong's Hebrew 6213, cognate with Spanish hacer, and ta, cognate with tu, te, etc. in Latin-derived languages like Italian, Spanish, and French. 36. Muk, mock. In Hebrew, muk means mock, deride, jeer. Strong's Hebrew 4167. Cognate with English mock and with Gallic mag, which means mock, ridicule, jeer, scoff. Discoveries in Hebrew, PDF 187. Now, the U sound we have today in Hebrew comes from the dot after the second letter, vav, or vav, which the Masoretes gave us. For all we know, the Hebrews, and I put that in quotes because we have no idea of the real nature of these people, pronounced it mock, just as in English. 37. Mut, cognate with mor, morte, muerte, moth. In Hebrew, mut or muth means to die, kill, have one executed. Strong's Hebrew 4191. Cognate with French mort, Italian morte, Spanish muerte, and moth, a symbol of death. Remember, the R sound can elide or disappear in languages, and some speakers will add the R sound where it does not exist. The Masoretes gave us the U sound in mut or muth with the dot after the second letter, vav or vav. Because the last letter tav does not have a dot inside it, one can pronounce it with a th. In Hebrew, strangely, like English has the th sound, and Castilian Spanish, but most other European languages don't really have it, and other European speakers have trouble with it. Without, the Germans say D instead of TH, and the French say Z. Without the dot after the Vav, one could read the word for death as moth. Moth. And here we have the death head's moth with a skull on its back of its head. 37. Moot and 6 January 2021 DC death. On January 6, 2021, Epiphany in the Catholic Church and Theophany in the Orthodox Church, Congress convened to ratify the electoral votes in the presidential election. At some point, a riot occurred and Capitol Hill police shot dead a 35-year-old woman, Ashley Babbitt, a 14-year veteran of the U.S. Air Force. And the 14, of course, is an important number, twice 7, as we know, and the U.S. military, I think, has played a huge role in our historical hoaxes. Ash in Hebrew means moth. Strong's Hebrew 6211. The same Hebrew root relates to Aish, meaning Arcturus, the guardian of the bear. Some say the name Arthur, as in King Arthur, derives from Arcturus, and so the bear relates to Arthur. So here we have this young Ashley, whose name means moth, dying on January the 6th, on the Epiphany. And 37, Moot continued, and the 6th January 2021 DC death. Quote, which maketh Arcturus, Ash, Orion, and Pleiades in the chambers of the south. Job 9:9. Orion refers to the hunter, as in Biden, and Pleiades to the 7 sisters. 7 refers to the Sabbath, which in turn relates to Zabak, which refers to sacrificial slaughter, including human sacrifice. Strong's Hebrew 2076. Sabbath and human sacrifices in turn refer to Yahweh, the Lord of hosts, or the Saba, or Sabaoth. Strong's Hebrew 6635. And as you can see, the Sabaoth is the plural of Saba, and the OTH plural tells us the word is feminine. So he was the host of an army of women, of Amazons, or perhaps angels who have no sex, non-gendered beings. Strong's Hebrew 6635. And Saba, or host, comes from the same root as Sab, a lizard. Strong's Hebrew 6632. And this, of course, brings us back to this long concept of reptilian beings, which I don't endorse or deny because I have no idea. Purely coincidental, of course. 38. Garon, Gargerot, and Garot, and gargle. In Hebrew, Garon means neck, as in Jesse Garon, Elvis's dead twin. Strong's Hebrew 1627. A similar word, Gargerot, also means neck. Strong's Hebrew 1621. You can see their close numerical relations. Quote, for they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head, and chains about thy neck. Gargerot, from 1621. That's Proverbs 1:9, which we saw a few slides ago. So, quote, so shall they be life unto thy soul, and grace to thy neck. Gargerot. Proverbs 3:22. The word garot comes from the Spanish method of strangulation by twisting a cord around the neck with a stick as a lever. Etymology Online tells us gargle comes from the Old French gargole, meaning throat or waterspout, and from gargouiller, to gurgle, bubble. And of course, I would surmise that if somebody gets garroted around the neck, he would gurgle and bubble out of the mouth. Thank you for watching. The next video will address the location of Byzantium, or Constantinople, in France. I want to thank in advance viewer Armunn Righ for this idea and for links to pictures.